Hey garden friends, it's Alexa here in Northeast Ohio, and today I'm going to be doing something a little bit out of season. I am going to be planting my spring garden in November. And I have never done this before, so this is going to be an experiment for me. But I think about winter sowing, and if you haven't heard of what winter sowing is, basically you can take like milk jugs or a big water container or something, and in the winter time, like January, February, March, you basically sow seeds inside that jug and they will sprout when the temperatures are right for that kind of plant. And I have a video about how to do winter sowing that I'll link below. But I think about winter sowing, and you know, you're starting seeds in the ground or in a jug when it's the middle of winter and they're kind of dormant. And I'm thinking, as we are headed into winter, I mean, it's November 11th, you know, we're right in that transition period between fall to winter. And I'm thinking, why not get ahead and start sowing seeds now that maybe they'll germinate, maybe they won't. But either way, that seed or that little tiny seedling will probably go into some kind of hibernation mode through the winter, and then in the spring, it'll start growing again. And so that's what I'm doing today, and I have some very cold hardy plants here. The first thing that I'm going to be definitely sowing seeds for is spinach. Spinach is super cold hardy and can even germinate in temperatures as low as like 40 degrees. And since my soil temperature is not frozen and it's above 40 degrees definitely, we're still gonna have some nice warm days from now until when the ground does freeze. I do think that the spinach will germinate and will start to grow from now through January, because it's not until around January in my area of Northeast Ohio that it starts to get really super bitter cold. I also have a couple different varieties of lettuces that are also very cold hardy. The greens that I'm going to be sowing seeds for today is this Nero di Toscana kale, which is lacinato kale or dinosaur kale. Lala Rosa leaf lettuce. This is a very cold hardy variety of lettuce. This variety of choy called Yellow Heart Winter Choy, again, very cold tolerant. It actually shows on the back of the package here that it's nicknamed the golden flower in the snow, incredibly nutritious and cold tolerant, super cold loving. Great Lakes crisp head lettuce. I am right on Lake Erie, one of the Great Lakes, so it is appropriate to grow that. Yellow Swiss chard, red Swiss chard, radicchio, which is a bitter green, broadleaf endive, astro arugula. Arugula is again another one that's like super great cold hardy. Bronze mignonette lettuce. A couple other things I'm just going to be trying and kind of just seeing how it does. This red express cabbage, I did read that red cabbages are more cold hardy than the green, so I'm going to try that out. Collard greens, black Spanish radishes, purple lady bok choy. Also going to try these Cascadia sugar snap peas. This is a short variety of pea, so it doesn't grow a really long tendril. And you know, with these seeds, I'm taking a gamble by doing this. There's potential that they will germinate, and then when the bitter cold comes, they'll just kill the plant, whatever has germinated, and then I'll just lose it. The seed may not germinate at all, and it will germinate in the early spring, or nothing will happen. But regardless, I'm just really trying to figure out how can I get ahead of my planting next season. And I already have a space prepared for more plants to go in, and I figure why not at least try and see what happens. And at the very least, I may get some more crops this year, or I may get a really early head start next spring. You know, if I got spinach and different greens coming up in March, that's pretty exciting. So I have transformed this area of the garden. If you've been following my content, this is where I had my circular garden bed right here with the obelisk in the middle. As you can see, I've completely taken that out and made these 4 long rows here. And why I did all of this is because it was for my garlic planting. But surprisingly, I was able to get all of my garlic planted in just those 3 beds back there. I decided to lessen the amount of garlic that I was going to plant. My original goal was to do 1,000 cloves of garlic this fall for planting, but just with my schedule and everything else, I decided that I'm just gonna scale back and focus on quality over quantity. And I had about 400 cloves of garlic that were a really nice size. All the other garlic cloves that I have harvested, they were just a lot smaller. And so I figure it's more important at this point just to grow garlic that's gonna produce a larger bulb rather than have a lot of smaller bulbs of garlic. And so if you haven't gotten your garlic in yet and your ground hasn't frozen, you can still go ahead and plant your garlic as long as your ground is still workable. You can get that garlic in. I'm just going to take those seeds and start just scattering them on top of these beds. I'm not really going to worry about spacing or anything too much. I figure over sowing is okay in this situation because I'm just not sure what all is going to come up here. All of the rows are planted, and surprisingly, like, I had just enough seeds to fill up all of these rows. This is actually more planting space than I realized. So this first little section has my spinach seeds, and I just went ahead and filled this entire section with the seeds. And I used these long posts here and just wrote with a Sharpie what each thing is, because we're gonna have snow and this is all gonna get covered, and these stakes will at least stick out of the snow. Not that we'll really see anything growing, but it'll still be good to know what's what and, you know, where everything is. So these are cabbages, collard greens, radicchio. This area here has arugula and the dino kale, radishes. This whole row along here is where I did the peas. So I kind of put an edge with the peas, bok choy, Swiss chard. I did a big section for Swiss chard because we do eat that quite a bit. And then this area is all of the different kinds of lettuces. So I did like a color pattern where it's green, red of the varieties. So that way it kind of has some visual interest when these grow. Get over there, guy. Lastly, in this bed is where I have onion seeds put in, and I really don't expect those to germinate until next year. Onions do well with a period of cold stratification, meaning they germinate better after they've been in freezing temperatures for a while. And I do have like some plants in here, like these are some rutabagas. That's actually a nice size rutabaga. So these are gonna keep growing in this space along with potentially onions. Yeah. In many places in these beds are these little sprouts of red mustard greens. And these are everywhere all over my garden. This plant really likes cold weather as well. And those are just sprouting up everywhere. So those will just be interspersed with all of this stuff. I really have no idea if this is going to be successful or not. I do have confidence in some things. The onions I feel pretty good about, and the lettuces I do feel good about too. Because I've had both of those kinds of plants go to seed in my garden, and you know, the wind blows them away and then they sprout the next spring in all kinds of places. So I feel like a lot of these are going to do well. If any of this does happen to germinate before we get kind of our regular snowfalls, and if it looks like it's growing in any kind of like good fashion, I may think about covering it with like a frost fabric, but I'm just gonna wait and see kind of how this goes. Again, this is an experiment. If you like doing any kind of garden experimenting and want to kind of do this fall sowing for spring garden, activity with me, we can compare notes in the springtime and see how we all do. And if you're interested in trying this but don't want to waste any seeds, just hang on. Let me be the guinea pig and tell you how it works. Again, I'm gardening in Northeast Ohio, which is Zone 6A. What I'm doing, it may work in more southern sowing grounds. I'm not sure. I'm always trying to push the limit and do all kinds of different methods of season extension. This is just going to be kind of a test to see what happens in this situation. Before I sign off, I just want to quickly show you what is growing in my greenhouse back here. It's not heated, but I have greens in here for the winter time. So this is just another way that you can kind of extend your season if you have any type of hoop house or low tunnel. You can actually keep growing greens through the fall and winter under cover. Things are pretty in here. So these are all plants that have been in here for several weeks now, and they're kind of getting to be good sizes. I've got broccoli and cauliflower plants here, and these I sowed the seeds for back in July, and they were growing in another area of the garden, and I transplanted them in here. And then I have like just a smorgasbord of different types of greens. I heavily sowed, but I've got Chinese cabbages, bok choy, red mustard greens. I've got some lettuce seedlings in here. And then I've got like kale and chard plants that we just went ahead and transplanted them. These were all plants that I started in the springtime, growing in different parts of the garden, and we just went ahead and brought them all in here, and they're starting to acclimate pretty good. And then in these blocks, more lettuce that are really starting to take off and look pretty good. We even have a nice little patch of calendula in here. And we have the whole area mulched heavily with straw or hay to help keep things insulated. So right now it's about 70 degrees in here, so that feels pretty good. They're getting some nice sunlight. And I water this area with a hose, but I don't have to water too often because the ground does stay pretty moist. If you're not quite ready to say goodbye to the garden yet, maybe you want to try experimenting and doing some winter sowing, fall sowing for your early spring garden. Even just getting those beds prepared can help get you into a better place in the early spring. I know for me, in the early spring has always been like cleanup mode, getting the beds fixed up, and that can take several weeks and kind of delays my planting. So having this done now actually feels really good, and I feel ahead for the 2024 growing season. So I'll keep you all updated on how this little experiment is going, and if anything starts to germinate, or how it does when our temperatures drastically shift. But for this lovely November day, I don't mind being out here, and if the thing that I lose is my time being outside today to plant these seeds, it was well worth it because I feel good. I got some movement in, some stretching, some bending, some walking, so I feel good about today's activity. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you keep hanging out with me in the garden and all the homestead things that we do here on Bloom and Wilt Gardens. Make sure to press the subscribe button and follow along on our journey. Leave a comment letting me know how your growing season was going and what you're most looking forward to in 2024. Can't wait to see you on the next video, and take care. Bye.